this week to talk about what some of the scams that are out there, some of the attempts to fool folks into giving up their hard-earned money and their savings. And so we're very happy to be here in Columbia today and with you to talk about this. So just to give you, it was mentioned, a little bit of background about me, just a little bit of background about the office. So we handle all the state's criminal appeals on the criminal side. We work with local prosecutors to prosecute crime. But on the civil side, we deal a lot with consumer-related complaints. We handle all the litigation for the state of Missouri. So when somebody gets sued or a law is passed and somebody challenges that law, we defend that. So we stay very, very busy. But one of the most important aspects of my job is protecting Missourians. And so there's some, as you'll see with our presentation, there's some really sophisticated ways that people try to dupe people out of their money. And so we want to stop that, but we need your help. So we'll get started. Assuming I don't trip over that thing there. Actually, Morgan, can you help me make sure I'm pressing? Just to hit the, am I hitting the arrow?
Yes, sir.
Okay, gotcha, there we go. All right, there's a nice picture of me. The best they could get, so that's why it's up there with a little bit more of the background that was just read. So some of the things that we'll cover today, I mentioned what we do at the Attorney General's office. Some of the scams that we see, we'll go through some of those, and a lot of people in this room are probably familiar with those, or at least heard of them. How you can protect yourself, and then who to contact. We want you to reach out to us, but there's some other folks at the federal level and at the state level that you can reach out to as well. So, where does our authority come from? So part of the charge as Attorney General is to protect consumers. Principally, that's through the Missouri Merchandising Practices Act, which allows the Attorney General essentially to mediate disputes and actually go after bad actors, bad contractors, scam artists. We can sue them at both the civil and criminal level, as was mentioned in the slide. So, what are some of the things that we've been able to accomplish this year? So one of the core missions is going after Medicaid fraud, people who are overbilling the state, cheating people out of their dollars, writing down fake hours, getting billed and costing taxpayers money. So our Medicaid fraud control unit has secured over $5 million this year. That's about double the pace of where we were last year, and also 19 convictions. And so we have a focus not just on the financial recovery, but also on convicting and going after bad actors. Dentists or pill mills that overcharge the state, those are the folks that we're looking for. We work with the U.S. Attorney's Office in those kinds of cases. One of the scams that is mentioned later on that we were able to recover earlier this year was based out of Kansas City, actually. These are nationwide and in some instances international. But there was a sweepstakes scam based out of Kansas City that there was a $30 million recovery. This is the kind of scam where essentially you've won a sweepstakes, but you have to send in $500 to get your full recovery, and they get you to write the check, and of course, you never get the reward. By the way, this is my favorite picture in the whole thing, which is somebody in a ski mask behind the keyboard. Looks very menacing, right? Which is the point. So on these telephone scams, they'll use spoof numbers. What's a spoof number? That's a number, and if you notice, the scams that maybe you're getting now on your cell phone have your area code, the first 3 digits of your cell phone, and then a different 4 numbers. That's all in an attempt to make you comfortable because it looks more familiar. A number that's from your area, from your neighborhood that might be calling. Somebody that maybe you just don't have their number plugged into your contacts. And so that is why those numbers are used, which we're seeing a lot more of those. Also, they'll use generic or made-up names that sound familiar, even though they don't really exist. You know, Consumer Credit Help, National Investment Service. Vague enough that they don't have to give much more information, but again, something that sounds familiar to get you to maybe engage them in a conversation. They also, and this is becoming more and more commonplace, and I know here in Boone County, the Sheriff's Department, there's a recent scam, somebody saying they're from the Sheriff's Department. That's not uncommon. They'll say they're coming from a legitimate business or a government agency, the IRS, Social Security Administration, the local Sheriff's Department, and as we'll talk about later, maybe even from the Attorney General's office. So, the Missouri Attorney General is not Sam Watkins. Okay, so a lawyer in our office, an assistant attorney general, actually got a scam call saying this was the Attorney General calling, and in order for them to avoid arrest they needed to fork over money. And so, obviously, our assistant attorney general knew it was a scam, but called back and said, hey, just following up on your phone call, by the way, don't do this. We ask that you don't call back. But our assistant attorney general was asking questions and said, well, who is the attorney general? Who are you? And he said his name was Sam Watkins. Sam Watkins has never been an attorney general in the state, isn't an attorney general. This is a Civil War author, and then, of course, you've got Sammy Watkins, who plays in the NFL. So, if you press any of these folks when you're on the phone, which we don't really encourage you to do, you'll find out that there's not much substance. It's all very generic. Again, an attempt for you to engage in a conversation and take away your money. Grandparents don't have favorites. Is that true?
No.
Is that true? No? Okay. I'm not going to ask any more questions. But this is a scam. So who's familiar with the grandparent scam? Has anybody ever heard of this? Okay. So, well, we'll go back. So the grandparent scam is this. Someone calls saying, look, we're with your grandson or with your granddaughter. They're in a lot of trouble. They've been injured. They're in the hospital. They're in jail. Something bad has happened, and they need your help. And they need your help right away. And you need to wire this money, give us a check number, give us your credit card number, we'll take care of the problem. It is really bad. And so if you get this kind of call, hang up, call your grandson, call your granddaughter directly, and find out what's going on, if there is anything going on, because this is not real. But they're preying upon, of course, the compassion of grandparents who want to help out their grandchild who may be in trouble. So this one is becoming more and more popular, and certainly, obviously, with the slide, targeted to a certain demographic. Again, sort of an affiliated government agency. Recently in the Western District on the Kansas City side, there was a scam claiming to be from the U.S. District Court, targeting elderly citizens, letting them know that, that you need to do something. It sounds very official, and again, trying to coax you into what sounds like a reputable agency or court or some entity, and asking for money. So, the only people more unpopular than the IRS are people pretending to be from the IRS. So, this is something that in recent years has become more and more popular. Not only are people filing, fake tax returns and getting money, which is a problem with the Department of Revenue and with the IRS, but somebody calling you, and a few years ago I got this phone call at my home when I had a landline, saying that we're from the IRS and you're going to be thrown in jail, or a tax lien is going to be initiated immediately if you don't pay the money that you owe. And again, if they get somebody on the phone, and as we stand here and talk about it, you can kind of take a step back and say, this is not how the IRS contacts you. They will only contact you by mail, by the way. If you ever get one of these calls, call the IRS or call the Department of Revenue. They're not going to employ high pressure tactics over the phone. It's just not something that they do. But people, they get concerned, they think they're in trouble, and that's how they try to take advantage of folks. Again, so the IRS and the Social Security Administration, this is a more recent one with the Social. I got this call, the Social Security Administration, claiming that your account number has lapsed and you need to pay money to get it reinstated, or whatever the call is. They're trying to sort of build on the idea that this is a reputable, or at least known, entity, and they want to get your money. So they'll demand immediate payment, with no opportunity to question or talk about what's happening. They'll require a specific payment method. The IRS and the Social Security, if you actually did owe money, they would never do that. You could pay by a number of different means, but this will be something where they demand something over the phone, and often threaten jail time, that they're going to have the police come get you if you don't comply. And again, these are high pressure tactics. You sort of look at the two-step here. One is make you feel comfortable with a familiar phone call, make you feel comfortable with something you've heard of before, and then high pressure sales tactics. Something bad's going to happen to a loved one. You're going to be thrown in jail if you don't fork over the money right now. So what to do? Don't pay over the phone. Don't send a check. Confirm, if you are concerned that there is maybe some issue out there, call the state, call the Department of Revenue, or call the local assessor. Make sure that you're getting an official number calling and asking some questions. No one is ever going to, if they're ever from any of those entities, probably call you anyway, but they're certainly not going to engage in any high-pressure tactics. And then report the issue. This is a big, and this is kind of a theme, in the things that we can do as an office, we can only do the things that we're aware of, right? So contact the Treasury Inspector General or the Tax Administration, the FBI, the Federal Trade Commission, or our office. We're happy to, if it's not something that we're doing, we're happy to get you to the right people. You don't need to spend money to make money, okay? These are typically in the sweepstakes scams, or if you just send us X, we'll send you this, and maybe it's a dated, you'll get a dated cashier's check in return or something. There's all kinds of ways, but anytime anybody's asking you to send money up front for something in return down the road, it's a scam. So that's something that we find a lot of times. So when an unknown call comes up, remember, if the caller is claiming to be a family member, hang up, call the family member yourself. That's the most important thing you can do. Never give out sensitive information over the phone. If you need to deal with those agencies, you can call them directly, and they're probably going to be dealing with you by mail anyway. And debt collectors can't arrest you. There's a lot of laws related to what debt collectors can do. And so if they're threatening that, they just can't do it. And we want to know about it too, because then we can go after them. So internet scams. These are typically links on emails that you'll get. You'll get an email. Again, it might even be from a name that looks familiar to you. You get an email, click on this, and then all of a sudden they're getting access to personal information, or maybe access to your computer. If they purport to be from friends asking for money orders, they need money immediately, it's probably a scam. And advertising saying that something's wrong with your computer, you need to contact us, that's probably a scam too. There's a couple of examples. One, your Apple ID has been locked up. Something happens, call this number, and what's happened on certain occasions is someone will call, they're given remote access, this happens, remote access to their computer, and $4,000 or $8,000 later, somebody's been swindled out of a lot of money because they gave access to the computer, personal information, bank account numbers, all that stuff. They can go in and find those passwords, all kinds of stuff. So never give access to your computer remotely. This was one that somebody came to our office, a lawyer in our office, from a friend with this name, Catherine Dolan. Okay, so the lawyer in our office gets it. Looks like a kind of a legitimate email address. It's a made-up email address, but it's someone that she knows. It looks like a legitimate email. Greetings, I hope this finds you well. I need a favor from you. I need to get a Google Play gift card for my nephew. It's his birthday, but I can't do it now because I'm currently out of town. Can you get it from any store around you? I'll pay you back as soon as I get back. Please let me know if you can handle this. Thanks, Catherine. You're trying to do a friend a favor, and people can be susceptible to these kinds of tactics where, again, it looks familiar, looks like a reasonable request, and all of a sudden you're out $200. The internet's not your friend, isn't always your friend. So, don't turn over control. This is sort of a summarization. Don't turn over control of your computer. Don't give out sensitive information. Only click on links from senders that you know and trust. You're not going to get an unsolicited email from, your internet provider or Apple. That's just not going to happen. It looks like a familiar name, but they're not going to contact you that way. And if it looks too good to be true, it probably is. This is probably just sort of good advice. All right, mail fraud. This still exists. People still do send things by U.S. mail. And so things looking like legitimate invoices from entities that are close to a name of somebody maybe you've dealt with in the past. They tell you that you won a prize, but you need to send a check in to claim it. This is a very common scam. Mailings indicating that something's wrong, that your home is out of warranty, or your health insurance is going to be suspended if you don't send in money. All these kinds of things as they come in and you're paying bills. If you don't renew and you don't send in your money, something's going to happen. And the sweepstakes scams, I mentioned this earlier. Our office worked with the FTC to shut down a place in Kansas City that was very heavily involved with this nationwide, and something that we're looking out for is called Opportunities Unlimited. it's estimated they took about $20 to $30 million a year from people. Look, everybody likes to feel like they're winning some award, but if you get something like this, odds are it's not legitimate. So we shut them down. They're shut down permanently, and we're looking to get back some recovery and get it back to victims. So in summary on the mailbox issues, the mail fraud scams, you know, if you get a letter saying you owe something, call the entity and confirm it before you send anything. Don't send any money in on the promise that you're going to get some money on the back end. Don't provide any personal information like bank account numbers or social security numbers. That's sort of an old school phishing expedition. And throw in the trash or in the recycling bin, right? That's probably what we should be saying nowadays. Throw in the recycling bin. Door-to-door scams. These still exist. There aren't as many traveling salesmen or women as there used to be selling Encyclopedia Britannicas, but people still do come to the door and knock. You're probably pretty safe here, but you know, a lot of folks who are, you know, maybe they're a widow or a widower, people still knock on doors selling things. A lot of municipalities have no solicitation policies, and you gotta get permission to come, and there's all kinds of things, but people still go door to door. Typically, they're after weather events. You know, if there's been high winds or there's been tornado or something happened, there's a concrete that's been busted or something, they'll come in when people are, you know, sort of need to take care of something in a hurry. And once they've got you on that front porch, employ really high pressure sales tactics. Look, this deal's gonna go away if you don't fork over the money right now. This is a one-time deal. You need to do this. All those sorts of things to make you believe that you're getting a deal. But ultimately, they're gonna walk away with your money. And as I mentioned, asphalt, home repair, storm chasers, this is what they do. And there goes to the boogeyman pop up there. So we talked about some of the sales techniques. You know, and sort of in summary here, don't pay up front. There's no reason to do it. Any reputable entity, they will give you a written appraisal or they'll give you a written contract or an estimate. They're not going to require all the money up front. You can shop around, just take your time. Ask for things in writing. That's a good practice in general. Talk to family and friends and sort of scope out, you know, what you ought to do. But you know, the amount of upfront would never exceed 20 to 25% anyway. Even if you're entering into a contract to, you know, have your roof done, contact your insurance company. There's all kinds of things. And don't pay in cash. Don't pay in cash. You know, if you're paying, especially with a check or especially a credit card. There are disputes resolution processes built into your agreement with the credit card company, where if you find out in a certain amount of time, you can cancel that payment, and the credit card company then goes after the bad actors too. So this is probably the best advice of the whole thing, which is probably why I saved for last. If you're suspicious or you in any way are uncomfortable with what's going on, you know, trust your instincts, and then let us know. So, and there we go, let us know. There's the red telephone that pops up. One thing I'll just mention too that I probably just passed up, the gift card scam is something that, you know, cash is king, but if you can get it on a gift card, which is often what they try to do, it's really kind of untraceable. So that's cash is king, but that's sort of the preferred method is to get your money on a gift card, because then you don't have those dispute resolution options with a credit card. You can't talk to your bank, you can't talk to your credit card company, the money's just gone. So, so that's the presentation. Questions? Let us know if you're receiving those calls. But those are becoming more and more sophisticated. There's no question about it. These are international operations. They're not, these no-call scams are very different than they looked like in the 1990s when Jay Nixon was Attorney General and launched the no-call list. It's much more sophisticated. There's also, by the way, you know, on-phone carriers, AT&T and others, are installing new kind of protections on your phone. There's apps you can download. Interestingly enough, my number, when I called somebody in the office, was calling somebody in our office, my number popped up as potential scam, evidently. So, I don't know how accurate they are. I guess he erred on the side of more of those kinds of warnings than less. So, sure, we've got a bunch of information here we're going to leave with everybody. Yep. Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
So how much information do you need to actually be able to do something as the Attorney General? Because So I'm here because of my mother who has Alzheimer's. She's 85, and I will tell you she gets 5 to 10 of those calls every 3 or 4 days when I go and check her answer machine. I've finally been able to convince her not to answer her phone at all.
Right.
Until she hears me or one of my siblings' voices and says, it's us, you know, you can now pick up your phone because she unfortunately has, you know, gotten scammed through these things in the past. So, but all I have is somebody, you know, whatever their spiel is on the answer machine, and sometimes and sometimes not a callback. Now,
Right.
is that, I mean, is that information enough that we should be relaying to you?
Yes, especially, I mean, it's hard if you're just getting a number.
I can give you a whole list of.
Sure, if you're just getting a number and no message or information, that's a little bit more challenging. But especially if they're leaving a message. I remember when somebody was purporting to call me from the IRS a few years ago and left a voicemail, it was, you know, call us back at this number, you're gonna go to jail if you don't respond within 48 hours, and all kinds of stuff. So as much information of, you know, where they're calling from, what was in the message, contact our office. The chances are that we've received other kinds of calls like that. And the more we can kind of piece it together geographically, it provides us as good of opportunity as we can to go after them. Those are the more challenging ones, but it's probably not relevant necessarily in your situation. But you know, if somebody's kind of coming around the neighborhood and they're offering a deal that seems too good to be true on fixing somebody's roof after a storm, or concrete work and they walk away, or somebody's doing, you know, home improvements and they never see the work being done, the more information we get about that, that's kind of a way for us to go after those bad actors too. And we have a team dedicated to investigating that, reaching out, trying to bring resolution, trying to get people's money back, and if not, we've got the, you know, the long arm of the law that can go after these folks too.